This is 8.1, part 2. We want to simplify negative square root of 49 over 36. There's a negative on the outside, so this is negative. With a fraction, we take the root of the top over the root of the bottom. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 36 is 6. Okay, so here and here, we've had the negative on the outside of the radical. Here we have a negative on the inside. If you have a negative on the inside of a radical, it can cause problems. Okay? Let's just try to put it in our calculators exactly as it is. So I'd enter the square root of negative 64, and it's going to tell me domain error. And that's because this is saying what number times itself gives you negative 64. Well, ignoring the 64 part, if I'm multiplying the same number together, I either have a positive times a positive, which was going to give me a positive answer, because it has to be the same number, so it has to have the same sign, or I have a negative times a negative, and that's going to give me a positive. There is no way for me to multiply the same number together and get a negative answer. It's just not going to happen. So we say that is not a real number. There is a branch of mathematics that deals with these. It's called complex analysis. You learn a tiny, tiny little bit of it in Math 330 and college algebra. But for us right now, it's not a real number. Okay. All right. Now, another little topic. Find the square of. What they're asking us to do is to find, for example, the square root of 36 squared. Well, you can do this in steps. The square root of 36 is 6. So the 6 squared is 36. It's always going to be the same thing. You will always get the radicand. So find the square of this. They're asking me to do this. And that's going to be 36. Okay. Now I'm being asked to square this, the negative square root of 19. That means I'm squaring the negative 2. That's a negative 1 there. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So I'm going to lose the negative when I square this. But in the square root of 19 squared, I get the radicand. This is going to be 19. Even if you put it in your calculator and do negative square root of 19, hit enter, and then I tell it to square that because it's going to take that answer and square it, it's going to give me back 19. Now where we end up using this more than anywhere else is we have a square root of some expression here. These two we could have found a numerical answer to and then squared it and we would have gotten that back. Here, there's no number to plug in. There's no square root to actually take and calculate. But if we square this, we get exactly what's underneath. No thinking involved. We just get what's underneath. Okay? All right. So let's look on to another type of problem. A lot of this is calculator work. Okay. We are asked whether these numbers are rational or if they are irrational. Rational is going to be a nice number, which is like a fraction. It's technically any number that can be written as a fraction. Mainly we're going to be looking for decimals. Let's see if I can spell decimal. That end or repeat. If your decimal ends or if it repeats, it's rational. Irrational is a decimal that never repeats or ends. Okay, so they want us to classify these And then they want us to round our answer to the nearest thousandth if necessary. Now, how many decimal places is the thousandth? Well, that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So that's thousandths. Which means we're going to have to look at the fourth decimal place to decide whether or not how this one rounds.